The warrior bug was a nightmare built for war. Standing 2 to 3 meters in length, the Arachnid's body moved low to the ground, its natural coloring blending seamlessly into the terrain around it. In the deserts, they appeared as streaks of tan and black, striped with yellow like some venomous predator born of sand and shadow. When the invasion of Mars began, some were seen with jagged spines running along their abdomens, whether the result of a new mutation or deliberate alteration, no one could say. They looked less like creatures and more like weapons given flesh. Their bodies were engineered for speed and endurance. The hind legs, long and powerful, drove them forward in bounding strides, while the shorter forelegs snapped and dug into the surfaces for traction. Agile and relentless, warrior bugs could climb walls, tear across open plains, or burrow through soil and steel alike. Wherever humans thought they were safe, the warriors proved otherwise. The warrior bug's weapons were as fearsome as its size. Its massive mandibles worked like living pincers, able to shear through rock and metal, with the same ease they severed human limbs. These jaws were the first and most brutal line of attack, snapping shut with enough force to crush bone to powder. Yet the true terror of the creature lay in its forelimbs, jagged blade-like appendages often mistaken for grasping tools. Soldiers once believed the bugs could clutch prey like mantises, but the truth was far worse. Lacking any finesse, the side mandibles existed for one purpose only: slaughter. Extending over a meter in length, they slashed and stabbed with a frightening speed, carving through armor and flesh alike. In battle, they doubled as shields, sweeping aside gunfire or hacking through barricades. Even maimed, the warrior bug was a nightmare to bring down. Reports claimed it could lose a limb and still fight on at nearly full strength, an 86% efficiency rating, coldly measured in military briefings. For troopers on the ground, the advice was simple and grim. Forget the armor, forget the blades. Put your rounds into the nerve stem, or you won't walk away. The warrior bug was more than just a predator. Its exoskeleton could shrug off repeated volleys of rifle fire, each round sparking or ricocheting from its armored hide. Only concentrated fire or heavy ordnance could bring one down quickly, and by then, there were always more closing in. That was their true advantage: numbers. On the battlefield, they came in swarms so vast that a single death meant nothing. A whiskey outpost, troopers watched in horror as the bugs clambered over the corpses of their own kind, using the fallen as living bridge to scale defenses. Human soldiers counted losses in brothers and sisters. Arachnids counted only distance gained, ground taken. They knew no fear, no hesitation. Where a man might falter before machine gun fire or artillery, the warrior bug pressed on, unthinking, unyielding. It was not courage that drove them, but the absence of pain. The simple, unrelenting instinct to kill, to overrun, to consume. Against such enemies, even the bravest soldiers learned that survival was measured in seconds, not victories. The warrior bug was not bound by the limits of human biology. It could thrive in searing deserts, endure freezing tundras, and more disturbingly, survive the void of space itself. During the Battle of Fort Casey, Federation troopers learned of this truth the hard way. Entire swarms drifted silently through the black, carried on nothing but momentum, before slamming into the station's hull. What was thought to be a natural barrier, the vacuum itself, proved nothing more than another battlefield. No one truly understood how the creatures endured it. Some speculated that they held their breath, though no one had ever seen a bug breathe in the first place. Others argued their carapaces sealed them tight, locking in whatever alien chemistry fueled their bodies. Whatever the answer, it hardly mattered to the soldiers facing them. The only certainty was chilling. Nowhere, not even the cold silence between worlds, was safe from the Arachnid advance. On the frontier, soldiers whispered that the warrior bug was more than just a soldier. It was a seed of conquest. Reports suggesting they were capable of reproducing on their own, spawning not only more warriors, but, in time, entirely new castes of Arachnids. If true, it meant a single bug, left unchecked, could ignite the fall of a world. The thought was chilling. One survivor crawling from the wreckage of a battle, burrowing deep into the soil, and from that hidden place spawning a hive that will one day rise and consume the entire colony. Yet whether these creatures carried the will to withdraw, to wait, and were built by the guidance of a brain bug or queen, remained uncertain. Some believed they were mere weapons, incapable of thought beyond killing. Others feared they were far more patient and cunning. On Klendathu, the warrior bugs revealed their true nature as shock troopers of the Arachnid horde. They came in endless waves, sprinting across the battlefield with terrifying speed, their numbers bloating out of the landscape. The federal military, untested in fighting such an enemy, answered with conventional tactics: lines of infantry, concentrated fire, and static defenses. None of it mattered. The ground shook beneath the swarm, and the mobile infantry was torn apart in staggering numbers. The opening battle of the First Bug War became a massacre. But it was at Whiskey Outpost that the Federation understood just how adaptable their foe could be. As bodies of warriors piled high under the withering gunfire, the survivors did not falter. They climbed. The carcasses of their own dead became a ramp, a grotesque bridge that carried them over the walls and into the heart of the outpost. It was a lesson written in blood. These creatures were not only fast and relentless, they were capable of turning even their losses into a weapon. By the time 11 years had passed since the Klendathu campaign, the Federation was no longer the green force that had bled so heavily in the First Bug War. Better armor, sharper weapons, and hardened tactics turned once hopeless battles into contests that could be won. Yet the Arachnids, and the Bug Warriors in particular, were not creatures to be outmatched for long. On the killing fields of the Second Bug War, the warriors revealed a chilling evolution in strategy. No longer did they rush blindly into walls of fire. Instead, they learned to stalk. Soldiers reported comrades vanishing into the dust, cut down by a single bug that struck with surgical precision before melting back into the swarm. Ambushes replaced charges, and the battlefield grew quieter, more uncertain, as every shadow seemed to hide a predator waiting to strike. Worse still was the cry, a guttural, ear-splitting roar that echoed across the rocks. One warrior's scream could summon dozens more, a rallying call that turned lone encounters into massacres. To fight them was a battle not just a monster, but an enemy learning, adapting, and hunting with a growing sense of purpose. On rare occasions, commanders of the Arachnid hives drove the warrior bugs into minefields, their armored bodies triggering the explosions and clearing the path for the swarm behind them. It was a brutal role, one more often given to the expendable chariot bugs. But when numbers allowed, warriors too became sacrificial vanguards. They were also cunning instruments of deception. Federation patrols learned too late that a lone warrior was rarely alone. Sometimes they were bait, charging into the open, drawing fire, and luring soldiers into carefully laid ambushes. Other times they slipped into the landscape like hunters, patrolling and scouting the ground ahead of the main swarm. Their sudden appearance the first and only warning before the attack came. In this way, the warrior bug was not just a shock trooper, but a versatile weapon of war. At Fort Casey, the swarm unveiled horrors that the Federation had not yet faced. Among the tide of warrior bugs emerged new breeds, twisted for specialized slaughter. Towering over its kin was a so-called super tank bug, its carapace a vivid red that burned against the smoke of battle. From its maws it spewed a stream of purple acid, a searing torrent that dissolved armor and flesh alike, leaving only screams in its wake. Other warriors, no less nightmarish, spat lances of plasma, turning defensive lines into burning wreckage. But the most unnerving development was not the new weapons. It was a new precision. Both at Fort Casey and later on the blood-soaked fields of Mars, troopers reported that bugs no longer hammered blindly at armored torsos. Instead, they struck with chilling accuracy, their mandibles driving down into the neck joints of powered suits, severing life where protection was weakest. It was no longer brute force alone, but a calculated adaptation. The warrior bugs had learned where to kill. The warrior bug is not just another soldier in the swarm. It is the swarm's will made flesh. For every battlefield where humanity adapts, the warrior adapts faster. It charges when outnumbering us, stalks when we grow strong, and evolves when our weapons improve. To face one is to face the inevitability of the Arachnid tide. A reminder that war is not won in single battles, but in the endless grind of survival. So as long as the hives endure, The warriors will rise again, carrying the truth of this war on their claws and mandibles. The bugs are learning, and they will never stop.